getting ready to go home, and it's just this phone call from the police. I'm like, what the? Yeah, he had a couple of his friends in the car. They ran off, like they fled the scene. Like he was alone when I found him. Yeah, exactly. Like someone could be walking there, yeah, on the footpath, and he would have just gone straight into them. But yeah, that's one of the sad things of, well, the horror sides of the rental business. It's part of the business. You have to get along with it. Can't be shy about it. But this is the first episode of Cigar Talks. Cigar Talks is where we just sit down, light up a cigar, and talk about our past experiences and also the future. So let's get started. I want to talk about a story. This story is about one of the cars being crashed, but let me start of how it all started. So I had found this client November, December. From November, December, he was always going in and out of the country. He didn't stay in the UK. He was traveling most of the time. He was going to South Africa, coming back. He was going to America and coming back. But he was going all over the place, but he would always end up back in England for maybe, let's say, a week, 2 weeks here and there. He was a good client. Didn't have any issues with him at all, really, until the big issue came. But once he had started renting from me, he had pretty much gone through quite a bit of my fleet in terms of the high performance cars and the luxury cars that I had at that time. And he was pretty good with it, like even with trackers, like I used to monitor his driving, and he wasn't being stupid with the cars, which is what I see quite often with someone of his age, really. There was one time where he did cab a wheel, but he was very upfront and honest about it and told me straight away. He's like, this has happened, how do you go about it? And yeah, we dealt with it, but didn't have any issues with him. It was summer. He was renting quite a few cars from me. He was going in and out of the country again, but every single time he did come back, he used to rent the RS3, rent the M3, and then he finally rented an M3 40i. That was his last car he rented off me. But this M3 40i was an estate M3 40i. It was a very, very good car. He had it for about 2.5 weeks before the incident happened. A week and a half has gone by. He's had the car, no issues, driving the car well. But then it was one night. He has been driving around in town centre, and then all of a sudden, I just get a call saying the car's been crashed, and he's run off. So I'm like, right, what do you mean? The car's crashed and there's no driver. This is a call from the police. So all of the alarm bells are ringing at this point, and I'm like, what is going on? I have a crashed car, a very fast car at that, an M3 40i, and a very expensive car at that, crashed right in the middle of town centre into a hairdresser's. Car went straight through. It's a very busy road as well. It's literally town centre. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, the driver's not there, the car's crashed, all the airbags have gone off, the road's closed, there's traffic jams on traffic jams, like, what is going on? So then I'm like, okay, right, let me go to the scene. So making my way onto the scene, I receive a phone call. It was Omar. Omar goes, I've crashed, I've ran off, I've panicked. So I'm like, right, where are you? Didn't want to panic even more. So I'm like, right, where are you? He had run off from the scene. He had run off and he came to a little church near the vicinity. But he's like, yeah, I'm here. I'm like, right, stay there, I'm coming there. Went to him. He was quite visibly shaken up, as you'd imagine. But yeah, went to him, spoke to him. He was really, really, really shaken up. Calmed him down, calmed myself down, and then took him to the scene. I'd convinced him at that point that he needed to do the right thing and go to the scene, because if he didn't, then it would have been a lot worse for him. He would have been driving under the influence, fleeing the scene, etc., etc., etc. But yeah, I had taken him back to the scene, and when I went to the scene, I had just seen the car. This was my first time seeing the car. I'm like, wow, like, I actually really like that car, but it's always a sad moment when a car crashes, but like, you get used to it. But that car, like, yeah. But I had seen the car, went up to the car, there was police all around it, the boot was open, and I see canisters, balloon canisters, and then I'm like, right, okay, right, this is something like, wow, like, I didn't think that my clients would be doing that in that specific car. So it's like, and especially it's such a good client as well. It was like, what the hell? So it turned out that Omar had a few of his friends in the car that were doing balloons, and then well, this is what he told me, he got influenced into doing balloons himself. And he was parked up, which at the start, he was parked up doing balloons, and then he decided to drive. He decided to drive around town centre with under the influence of balloons while doing balloons. And then, while being under the influence, he had decided to completely put his right foot down and go from the street. He had turned left and just completely just go straight on. There was a T junction at the end of the street, and he had just gone straight on into the shop right in front, which is like, I still think about it now, it's crazy. Honestly, it's crazy. Like, I would never think that people would have the capacity and the audacity to do such a thing in not even their own car. But yeah, I had taken him back to the scene, found out that he was doing balloons, and then I had let the officers known who was driving the car at the scene, and Omar had handed himself in. He had been arrested at that point, and yeah, it was a very, very hard thing for me to do because he was my client and he was a good client at that point, but it was the right thing that I needed to do at that time, because what he was doing in the car was completely wrong, and it has massive effects on me, my business, and massive effects on the people around there as well. It was very lucky that at the T-junction that he didn't run into another car, or like there was no one walking on the footpath that he had hit, essentially. But yeah, he was very lucky in that sense, and he should be very grateful for that. But yeah, he had written the car off. That car is still written off. It has never gone back on the road since. To be honest, like, it's funny because you don't expect a phone call and saying, okay, yeah, your car's been crashed in the middle of town, in a hairdresser's, the car's halfway in the shop, and there's no driver. Like, it's an interesting call when you get those sort of calls, but like, yeah, all you have to do is thank God for making me capable enough to being able to deal with these sort of situations, and you have to deal with it in the correct manner. At that night, like, thank God that I was able to speak to Omar, calm him down, convince him to go back. Otherwise, it would have been a lot worse for everyone in the situation, especially for him as well. I mean, he needs to go in and out of the country, so I mean, there was no stopping. It was inevitable that he needed to hand himself in. But it was good that he did it at that moment and not waited longer and longer, not waited for the police to come find him. Those are one of the horror sides of the story of the rental business. Omar has never rented a car since that point onwards. He's been wanting to, but can never do that again with him. But yeah, he's been pretty much blacklisted from every rental company within the UK. He's been reported on hire guard. He's been reported everywhere. He's had his license taken off him as well. For dangerous driving under the influence. But yeah, that's just like one of the stories. It's like every client that you handle, like that you deal with, you need to understand that every client is a good client until something goes wrong. A client only goes fair past that point onwards is if how they deal with it. Umar didn't deal with it in the correct manner as he should have. Like, that is with a lot of clients that you will find, let's say if you're running a hire business, that every client is a good client until something goes wrong.